Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a video for you about 3 different campaign missions in Black Ops Cold War, along with the regular reveal. I was lucky enough to attend a presentation at Treyarch where I got to see 3 levels from campaign early. Not the entire levels, but really big chunks of them, the interesting parts of them, which gives me some real insight into how they're going to play, what the game's going to be like, what weapons are going to be in the game, the settings, the characters, and just tons and tons of cool stuff. We're going to be going really in detail here today. The first mission that we saw was set in Ukraine. It was set closer to the Russian-Ukrainian border, but it's all Soviet bloc at the time, so it's one basically nation. And the team, which was Woods and whatever character you created, I believe, has to investigate a mysterious Russian structure to see what it is. This mission has a bit of stealth and a bit of action in the latter half. So you sneak around through the woods, you kind of stabby some Russian guards, creep around, do some, stealth stuff. And when you finally see the building, it looks like this crazy Aztec half pyramid. It looks like it literally looks like something that came right out of Call of Duty Zombies, and that it's going to beam you to the moon or something. And I'm like, oh man, this is going to be crazy. But what was inside was even crazier to me. Inside the building, when they finally, they kill all the guards and they get ready to open the main door, they bust into an arcade and Woods stabs a mannequin in the head and, kind of gets made fun of. But it's like a 1980s arcade, and Pat Benatar's Hit Me With Your Best Shot is playing in the background. And they kind of look around. It's really confusing. It's a full American arcade there inside the pyramid. Electricity, American music, everything. And they look out the window, and inside this pyramid, there's a whole American town. And Spetsnaz troopers are like parachuting and ziplining in and raiding buildings and stuff. What this is a huge 3 or 4 football field size area that lets Spetsnaz soldiers practice their American invasion in fake American invasion towns. Throughout the rest of the campaign, Woods says, how about we give them a live fire drill? And they start fighting against the Spetsnaz in this fake American town inside this half pyramid inside the Ukraine, and it just gets kind of insane. Some of the weapons that we saw in this level was what's called the Krig 5 assault rifle, which kind of looks like a G3. They have a machete, a tomahawk, throwing knives, things like that. We see an MP5 being used. There's an AK-47. They do have some VLK sights very similar to the ones in Warzone. And near the latter part of the mission, since apparently let's give them a live fire drill when you're behind enemy lines isn't really the brightest idea, and there's nowhere to go once the pyramid is locked down, they steal a Russian APC. I wouldn't call it a tank. It's one of those light artillery kind of weapons. This doof, 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 doof kind of like some of the ones that we have in Warzone at the moment, and drive it around the fake American town, blowing up the fake American town, blowing up the Russian fake invaders and their homeland, and kind of like busting a hole in the wall in the pyramid to get out of there. And at least through most of what we saw, the music for this is Pat Benatar's Hit Me With Your Best Shot, and it's just going the whole time, and every time they shoot, it's like, hit me with your best shot, pow, headshot every time. Made for very, very fun kind of campaign gameplay to watch. The next mission is by far the most interesting to me. This one takes place inside the KGB headquarters, where you play as a double agent who is an American spy pretending to be a Russian spy, and you have an objective to, well, it wasn't really clear what your objective was. I believe it was to get information, like to steal a file or folder. And you have to walk around the entire inside of the KGB, and they map this based on historical pictures. It's something you don't normally see, the inside of the Foreign Intelligence Agency. And you have to sneak around and go to the right places. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do this mission. You can be like a little thief, and you can like Skyrim around and steal what you need. You can find somebody who has access to it and bribe them, but first you have to find the money. You can dig around and find incriminating information against your fellow officers and blackmail them into cooperation with you. Or you can poison somebody and use that as a distraction to do what you need to do. It's kind of crazy, honestly, the amount of choices that you have. I don't know if there's a Rambo Guns A-Blazing choice or not, at least in this first half. It's like 4 different flavors of stealth, and you can't do all of them. You kind of have to pick one and roll with it. The second half, however, is, well, you've done something wrong, and the alarm goes off, and there's like a whole ton of Spetsnaz soldiers that show up. So you have to bust out of the KGB violently. There's an RPD that you get to use. There's a couple of those door breaching slow motion fights. I did notice during this section that when you're shooting people in campaign, you get these huge red hit markers for kills that are very hard to miss. I mean, you get the little red hit markers now for kills, right? But I mean, these were like huge, giant X's on the screen, very visible. Honestly, I think it's a HUD or overall like visual feedback improvement. They used a weapon in this called the Horror 777, Haurer. It looks like an 870 MCS shotgun from Black Ops 2. And this level got very silly with how fanciful the violence was. A lot of the other stuff was more tame or realistic. This just turned into like Judge Dredd or John Wick rolling in there, and there's just like wave after wave after wave of Russian SWAT teams and Spetsnaz and guards and stuff, and you're just mowing them down in close quarters combat and like slow motion your way through the bullets. And just when you think it's gotten ridiculous enough, a car drives into the building, smashes through, you drive out, and it turns into a high-speed car chase through the streets of Moscow, shooting rockets and guns and stuff at each other. And I don't know if you get to drive the car or just ride or exactly how it works, but it basically just turned into absolute chaos, but it looked like a really fun mission. This is a mission where you have 4 different choices on whether to steal, bribe, blackmail, or poison, or maybe just guns ablazing, which is super interesting. You can find alternative intel in the KGB that unlocks missions for later on. The last half is a gunfight and a car chase, and it's all blasted into some kind of 80s music that I could not identify, but was very fun. Now let's talk about the last full mission preview that we got to see. It's a late game mission, so it's kind of revealing some story stuff. This one was more edited than usual, but it's set in Laos in Vietnam in, I want to say 1968. I just said Laos in Vietnam. It was the Vietnamese-Laotian border, because I know that Laos is a different country. Apologies on that one, getting a little, like, it was a big mess in Vietnam, okay? So this is one where you're using a lot of Vietnam era authentic weapons, a lot of old AKs, M16A1s that were oddly fully automatic, M1911s, stuff like that. And players, I think you're playing as Adler, you're having a flashback to your past. The graphical fidelity on this mission was higher than most of the others. The rice paddies, the foliage, the water, everything looked really nice. It looked like a truly next-gen game, so that's good. And again, it looked a lot like the Black Ops 1 Vietnam missions, but just way better. They showed off some of the new executions, because in campaign, you don't just stab people in the heart and you don't do like Warzone style executions, but they have really brutal, like realistic executes. For example, I was able to, or I was not, but the person playing was able to run up to somebody and you hit melee in their face, but what it does is grabs the AK and pushes it out of the way, and then he reaches into their pocket, pull out their pistol and shoot them in the head, and then pick up the AK and collect the ammo and go. And it seemed like a lot of the melees had kind of custom animations, which was cool. This mission also has 4 different initial paths, or maybe 5. I kind of lost track of, they were just showing so much stuff so fast. There is a sniper path, which is probably one of the, it's like a long range stealth one. You pick people off at a distance and kind of move through and you snipe. Okay, cool. There's a crossbow path, which I guess is more of a close range sniper path, where your character sneaks through like the grass and the bushes and the rice paddies, and you're kind of sniping people with the crossbow and slipping through their patrols. After that, you've got a sneaking path where you can just like truly not kill anybody. You can just Homer Simpson into the bushes and get out of there. A path where you use the China Lake grenade launcher and other rockets and just blow everything all to little bits. And interesting ability about this level, the choices you make will reset the level itself depending on what you choose to do. Depending on your choice, the combat is going to be smarter or more tactical at day or night or different times and in different situations and different paths. So this mission is going to play really differently depending on what you choose to do to get to your objective. Your objective in this mission is something confusing. You're supposed to investigate a mysterious area in Laos or Vietnam called the Red Door. And your character is kind of getting these weird flashbacks and voices in his head, and he's hallucinating red doors just floating in the middle of the forest, or these big kind of like safes, but with red doors, fall from the sky and smash into the ground like they're bombing, I don't know, Laos with all the like red doors. And clearly your character is hallucinating. And the hallucinations get so intense, it really seems like God himself has come down to destroy the world and is kind of tearing the map apart and changing things all around you. At some point, the character goes through the red door, and gets magically teleported into some kind of facility and then back again, and it's all very, very trippy. It's clearly some kind of hallucination, but there's also weird aspects where when you open, like the character opened one door and went like backwards in time, like followed their exact path backwards through the level and then opened a different door and zipped kind of forward. It's like the character doesn't even know what time they're in or what they're supposed to be doing. And their brain is so all over the place that they're remembering everything out of order, and that's kind of how you're playing through it, which gets even trippier. And it seems to be a really important story or plot point, so of course they cut it off before we got any sort of big reveals going on. But it's going to be a really confusing mission. I think you're going to have to do some like non-linear time pathing to get to the end on this one, and I don't know how COD players are going to deal with that one. But overall, the 3 missions I saw were all very different looking, very unique, very fun looking, and I think that it's going to make for an absolute banger of a campaign. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite,